on a gentleman named Steve Jobs. I know you all know who he is, right? Okay. But he is the master at using marketing principles to make money. And I'm going to show you how he did it, okay, using these fundamentals. The first thing I want to talk to you about is culture. Okay, an inventor has to have some culture. What is culture? Culture is a set of ideas, a set of beliefs, and I'm assuming that you guys have some culture in this room, right? Can anybody describe a little bit of culture amongst inventors? Is there any camaraderie, any kind of vibe or zone that you guys like to get in? Anybody? Well, how would you characterize an inventor?
Inventive.
Inventive. What else? What else?
Different.
Creative. Different. Odd. Right? No, that's not. Innovative. Anything else?
Unique.
Unique. Okay, so you all have some common interests, right? And you all kind of connect to each other through this innovative, this creative, this kind of struggle, if you will. Well, I'm going to talk to you about how Steve Jobs did it, okay? And how he recognized this. So first of all, I'm from California, okay? I'm from Northern California. I grew up in a city. And what influenced me, when I was 18 years old, I went to California State University, Chico. Anybody heard of that? Yes. Awesome. Woo, center of the earth. Anyway, I was 18 years old. Had long hair, okay? Northern California is known for growing things, okay? Okay, some of the best herb in the world, okay? We had long hair. And I came from the city, and I went to school with these guys who, I studied manufacturing, I went to these guys who came down from the mountains, okay, and they built stuff. We made things out of plastic, out of wood, out of metal. And, thank you very much, thank you very much. And one day, I'm 18 years old, impressionable, and I'm in this class with all these guys, long hair, and ride their bicycles to school, and live out in the woods. And a little company called IBM came. Okay, you guys heard of IBM? Back then, they had 400,000 employees. They had killer benefits, they had a great business model. And he came to our class, and he talked to our professor, and he says, I'm going to have a job for every one of you guys. Yeah, because they were hot, okay? But he says, and you get vacation, you get the structure, you get all this kind of stuff. But he says, there's only one condition when you come to work for IBM, okay? He says, you got to shave, okay? And you got to cut your hair. Okay, so he promised all of us a job, but you had to shave and cut your hair. Our whole class, at one time, said, we don't like it. Our whole class said, don't bother coming. So I was in this culture, okay? These people with long hair, with attitude, creativity. What other words did you guys use? Inventive, creative. And about 3 weeks later, another guy comes to our company. This is 1980, okay? Another guy come to our company, our class, and says, hey, I'm going to recruit you guys. You could wear long hair, you could wear jeans, you could sit Indian style, you could work all kinds of odd hours, okay, flex time, all these kinds of things that you're now about hearing about. And who was that guy? Steve Jobs. Okay, how many people do you think went to work in Silicon Valley in 1980 who are now multi-millionaires? A lot of people, okay? Culture. So we're going to talk about that tonight, how that plays a part in your inventive process. Okay? Because you guys have the culture. Okay, so we go. Here. What is marketing? So what's marketing? We know all about sales, right? We know we got to make sales, but what is marketing? Marketing is two main principles. You've got to get a customer. You have got to get a customer. And once you get a customer, you got to keep them. Agree?
Yep.
Agree. So you nothing without a customer. So marketing departments fill that role, help you get customers, and of course you want to retain them so you can have them for a lifetime, right? Agree? Cool. All right. The other thing about marketing is it really does no good unless you bring back what?
Money.
Money. Marketing is a waste of time unless you bring back money. As someone who's a marketing consultant, runs a marketing business, I don't last very long, okay, unless I bring back the bacon. Agree? Cool. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about the history of marketing. Okay, been going on a long time. So look at this picture. What do you see?
Looks like a slave owner,
No.
slave seller.
He's a fur trader. It's kind of hard to see. He's a fur trader.
Oh, that's an Indian. Is that an Indian?
Yeah, he's trading fur
Oh, okay.
to a guy, okay, down the riverbank. It doesn't show up that well in here, but that's the old riverbank. In the old days, you came by, okay, and you showed your product, one-on-one. Kind of like Wayne was doing at the fair, right? One-on-one. Who's the other lady at the fair, right? Does one-on-one marketing work? See me, smell me, touch me, right? Your product relies on that, right? They got to get it in their hands. Well, they did that several hundred years ago. Okay? To this day, does marketing work hand to hand? Eye to eye, right? Belly to belly. You guys heard that word before? Still works. So that's a little bit about the history of marketing. Still true to today, what was done 500, 600, 800 years ago. But now we've taken on a whole new approach to marketing, right? What else did we see at the fair? Other forms of marketing. What do you think? Carnival barker? Good idea?
Comedian?
You gotta get customers. You gotta get their attention. So they came up with a new way to, instead of hand to hand, hey, let's call them in. Let's call them in. I think it works. What else do we see today? Good, good? This works, guys. This works. Calling people in, getting them in. You cannot sell anything, right, unless you get their attention. Agree? Okay, so Carnival barker. And now today, with Facebook and social networking and all this kind of stuff, what have we come to? Robocalls. Does robocalls work?
No.
Why do people do it then?
What is it?
To do something. They want to do something, they just don't know what else to do it.
Percentages. I think it's terrible marketing, but robocalls. So we've gone all the way from hand to hand, belly to belly, right?
You mean telemarketing?
To telemarketing, robocall, a computer calling you and leaving a message on your phone, even on your cell phone. So marketing is everything in between, okay? And so tonight we're going to talk about some principles, okay? Principles, foundations, cores of how to, what's in the middle to drag customers in, okay? This is interactive, don't forget. All right. So first steps for you guys who are inventors, okay? You may have been asked this before, but you got to find out who you are and what you do. Okay? And if you're going to come to me or you're going to come to an investor, they're going to ask you who you are, what you do. Okay, Steve Jobs, the master, 75 billion in sales, okay? He sought out, he knew that. He said, you know what? We're going to make lives better. Remember that word. We're going to make people's lives better. We're going to make businesses better, and we're going to make lives better. I made up that slogan, by the way, but that's Steve Jobs, okay? He wanted to change the world. He wanted to make the world a better place. Remember that. So, here's some things I'd like to ask you to do. Just in your mind, tell me, what is your invention, okay? What is it? You've got to be able to describe what it is. As a marketer, someone who helps people, a lot of people have this problem describing accurately what they do. Who is your customer? What's your lady? What's your name? Women. What kind of women? Middle-aged, old, young, single, divorced?
I'm hoping women from anywhere from 15 to 8 to 80.
Okay, so broad range of women. Any other characteristics?
If they have to own a cell phone.
Okay, so now we're rolling. Okay, and then what does your product specifically do for women?
It gives them a place to hold their phone when they don't have pockets in what they're wearing.
Cool. All right, cool. So we have to be able to describe that. And then, obviously, when I get a client, I have to ask you, and I'm going to pick on you a little bit, what makes you so good? What makes your product so good that I'm going to just jump over and buy it?
It's lightweight and comfortable, and women are sticking their phone in their bra.
Okay.
That's not good.
All right, cool. So those are some 3 things you gotta know. You gotta be able to answer these questions.
When you call the wrong number.
Okay, so let's talk about Steve Jobs and the old iPhone. Okay? Okay? And you have to ask yourself, and so I want you to take a few minutes, ask yourself, what does your product replace? Okay? Yours replaces putting in someone's bra, right? You gotta be able to replace something. Okay? And also you have to say to yourself, what if this device can make them look good, right? Replace their bra, right? Or do something, right? So I'd like you to take a minute and talk to your partner and tell me, what does this device replace? For example, replaces your camera. What else does it replace? Just give me 1 or 2 more. What else does it replace? Computer. Brains, games, cameras, GPSs. replaces things, right? Notepad. What else? Anything else?
Books.
Books.
A level.
A level. A level. Game Boy. Dave Amos, what does this thing replace?
Marketing professor.
I'm a marketing professor. What does this replace? That traces a watch. TV. Okay.
Movies.
Okay, so now, take a second, write this down. What does your product replace? Tell me, what does your product replace? And ask yourself, so you gotta ask yourself, what if I can replace this? What can I do with my product? All right. So now we're in the invention mode, right? We gotta choose a product to invent, right? I heard palette, I heard cell phone holder, I've heard keyboard, and I want you to look at these four items, and very, very important. And I'm gonna tell you why in a little bit. So, what are some trends? Okay, today let's talk about fashion. What's a fashion trend today? Let's talk to a woman. Any fashion trends today? Okay, here's a trend. Let's see. Look, where'd my phone go?
Stonewashed jeans are coming.
Stonewashed jeans, okay? Do you think cell phones are a trend among 18-year-old girls?
Absolutely.
Texting, right? Okay. What about Facebook? Trend? Social networking? Okay. Trend. Personal connection. Does your product connect with people? Wayne, does your product connect with people?
Sure.
You have to connect with people. Okay, so you have to ask your product, does it connect with people? Very, very important. We just talked about replacing existing products, and you should also think about, does my product make the world a better place? Think about those things, they're important. I'll tell you why in a minute. So, Steve Jobs, as you know, he got the iPad, right? Did it replace a lot of things? Big time. Okay, does he make a lot of money? Big time, okay? Used to. He's dead now, but, and what about the iPad? Or the, not the iPad. iPod.
That's the only confusing thing. Pad,
iPod.
pod,
iPod. Do you think, does anybody talk about the Sony Walkman anymore?
No.
The what? No. Okay? He replaced things. He made it life better. He made it cool. And you know what? He connected with people. And people dug his product. Okay? So Steve Jobs was the master at replacing product, making people's lives better, and connecting with people. Those are core marketing principles that you can use, adjust, to make money. Okay? That Steve Jobs did. All right. Now, remember those four things I told you? What do these two girls have in common? Okay? What cosmetic attributes do they have in common? I'm going to tell you how this plays.
Highlights.
Highlights. Highlights. These are both people of color, Hispanic, black, whatever you want to call it. And they both have their hair highlighted. Why would I be talking about that? Okay? I'm going to tell you why I'm talking about that and why this drives me crazy. 10 years ago, I was teaching college at an all-Spanish college over in West Tampa. Anybody been to West Tampa, had a Cuban sandwich before? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? All Hispanic people. And a girl comes up to me, I teach marketing plans, and a girl comes up to me and says, Mr. Jenkins, there's going to be a trend over the next 10 years that Spanish girls and black African-American girls are going to get their hair highlighted. And I said, you're crazy. And she says, no, it's going to be a trend, it's going to happen, and there's going to be a personal connection. People are going to connect with people. The African and the Spanish people are going to connect with each other, and everybody else who has dark skin and black hair, we're all going to connect, and we're all going to highlight our hair. And I thought, you're crazy. Today, do you see a lot of Spanish girls with their hair dyed? Absolutely. If you were in on that 12, 14 years ago, you'd be making lots of money right now. So, personal connection, remember that word? And being up on the trends. Dynamite marketing. Where's the personal connection? Where's the personal connection? Let me ask this guy. He makes $850 billion a year in sales. Where's the connection? Does he have personal connection?
All over.
Big time. Big time. Big time. I think if Jobs was still around, he'd have something by then. Okay. Now, what is that? A mouse. Do you see any personal connection with anything with that product? What do you see? It connected what?
Well, it's ergonomic.
It's ergonomic.
It's natural to use. It's
Natural. So it connected humans with what?
machines.
Machines. Pretty important, right? When back then IBM said no one's going to want a personal computer in their house, right? Jobs said, you know what? I think there just might be. Why? Personal connection. Steve Jobs, the master at personal connection. Everybody get that? Personal connection. Cool. Got it. Hang on one second.
Yeah, also Steve Jobs was an advocate of using icons and graphics, which was also the personal connection between the computer and the user.
And you notice on the map thing, Highway 280 is on here, which runs right by his house, by the way. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about product development and what made Steve Jobs so good. Product development is you make a product and you want to make it so you can modify it over time, right? To keep it fresh. May I ask you, what's your first name?
Ham.
Ham. Can you modify your product at all? Change colors, change fabric, what can you do with it?
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. Great. I like that. Wayne, can you change your product?
Sure.
So how?
I can change the size of the keys and configuration a little bit.
Okay, where's my palette guy? Where's Mr. Palette? Right there. Can you configure your palette
I
anyway?
can make any size you want.
Great. Anybody else got an invention that you could develop the product over time and make? Yes?
Yes.
What is your product?
I have improved gun sights, currently working on pistols, can certainly go to the rifle and the shotgun if you want.
Cool. So you have to be able to keep people in the family. Okay? So you make modifications every year as the product life cycle goes and stuff. You guys remember that? Steve Jobs, the ultimate master at product modification. Unbelievable. Again, 75 billion in sales, who started in his garage. Not bad, right? Because he used the marketing principle of product development and modification. Great words. Cool. Okay, so what are some marketing principles? What are some other marketing principles that you guys can take? Okay, one of my favorite words is value. Remember this word? Value, great value. Anybody go out to eat over the last 4 or 5 days? Where do you eat at? Where'd you eat at?
Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A? All right, the ultimate in value. What'd you have?
They're number 5, which is the little chicken.
All right.
Big tea.
How much did you pay?
$5.67.
$5.67. Cool.
Yeah.
How much do you think it was worth?
It was definitely worth $5.67.
Value. Value. She bought it for $5.67 and it was worth $5.67.
Yep.
Anybody else go out to eat? Where'd you go?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. What'd you have?
That's number 7, entree only.
Entree only, okay.
$3.85.
$3.85. Okay. Anybody have a 6-pack of Bud lately? No? Okay. You went out to eat, buy anything lately?
I just went to Carmelita's on the way here on Omerton.
Okay. What'd you have, man?
I had beans, rice, salad,
How much you pay?
$14.
Wow. Was it worth 14?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. So if it wasn't worth 14, right? You don't think you got good value, right? Value means bang for the buck. You guys all know that word, bang for the buck? If you pay 10, it should be worth 10. You paid 14, it's not worth 14, right?
You won't go back.
You won't go back, and what else is going to happen? Particularly around women.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends, right? Bad word of mouth. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about word of mouth here lately as a marketing fundamental. Okay, so value is, if you're selling your, I heard you say your product's $69, or how much is your product?
Me?
Yeah.
It was $14.99, but I had a fair special for $9.99.
Okay.
They loved
Did
it.
you think people had good value?
Yeah.
Very important. Steve Jobs, excellent job on value. Yes, dear.
Can I stick up for Carmelitas, because I went to Carmelitas for lunch, and Wednesdays was 2 for 1 fajitas, $8.95, so
Good value?
excellent value.
There you go. A good word of mouth. So good for you. So remember that word. Okay, next word we're going to talk about, a marketing fundamental, a marketing principle, is the word brand. Brand. What are your customers, how do they perceive your product? What are they thinking about your product? When you see the Mercedes sign, you understand that brand, right?
Reliability.
You see the Apple sign, you know what it is, right? Red Bull. Sugar water, a few vitamins, okay? 8 ounces, 3 billion in sales. 3 billion, friends. Do they use branding? Do customers understand what this is?
I thought it was caffeine.
Yes, sure.
I love the fact that Red Bull, I like marketing too, but I love the fact that Red Bull on the top, they have the little bowl symbol, and when you flip it, it has the little bowl. The only thing is with it, the only thing with it is the majority of people, from what I understand, are right-handed, so you should
Oh.
have it because the little mouthpiece is in a certain specific spot. You should always have the Red Bull on the or on the side, so when you take a sip, you see the Red Bull.
Cool. Good point. But branding, what are your customers, Pam, you're gonna have to work on some branding. Customers are gonna have to perceive your product somehow, some way, as value, it's cool, it's hip, whatever it is, right? So you can get your price, right? And they come away with the value. So branding, what do your customers think, or what do your prospects think of your product? Anybody else have any experience with branding and trying to get your image going out there and captivating the public? Anybody else doing branding? Yes, sir.
I own a DJ company.
Oh, you brand it? Are you cool? Are you hip? What are you? What do
It's
people
called
know you
Beyond
as?
Sound, and we offer more than just entertainment.
Okay.
You know, we try and market ourselves as a able to do more than one thing. We can cater, we can do anything.
Yeah, I suggest if anybody wants to learn more about branding, okay, read about Red Bull, because they are good. Okay, cool. So we talked about branding, yes. Okay, what are some other marketing principles that you need to follow? There's way too many to talk about, but this is the dynamite book of all books. It's called Marketing Principles by Kotler, the Bible of marketing. You cannot get this at Borders Bookstore, by the way. Okay, it's a college textbook, but it really goes over the fundamentals of marketing. So let's talk about a couple more core principles. Do you need new technology for promotion today? You guys all believe in Facebook and Twitter and websites, right? Email. Good?
Yeah.
Important? So you gotta stay up on it. Okay? What about sustainability? Important? Making the world a better place, not polluting. Anybody do business out in California, Northern California? Anybody California people out here? No California people out here? No. Okay. Is sustainability important? Why does Publix have those green bags all over the place? Publix does not make any marketing mistakes. Okay? If you want to see someone who knows, understands marketing, pay attention to Publix. And safety, I think it's here to stay. So if you guys have a product that's safer and sustainable, I think it's a core fundamental. I think it's here to stay. We talked about improving lives and businesses. I think it's a core principle. Okay, next core principle is the marketing environment. What's going on around everybody? There's about 5 you need to know about. What's going on with new technology? Let's take somebody out here. Who has a product that's really technically out there and
Wayne does.
technology exploding out there? Wayne, what's new in your field in technology that you have to be conscious of?
Well, there are other ways of being able to input, other ways to interface.
Wireless, right?
Sure.
So you got to pay attention to that. Anybody else dealing with technology?
Apps.
Apps. Really putting the heart on software, right? I took my business to the cloud. So we got to pay attention. What was your invention again? Comforter. Is there any new technology or any new technology in comforters? New fabrics or anything out there?
Robotics.
Robotics? New technology?
Robotics are manufacturing a lot of things now.
Okay, robotics. So you got to pay attention to new technology. You got to pay attention to the political environment. Any laws affecting anybody? Anybody have an EPA rule up against them, or an OSHA rule, or a
Changing patent laws?
change? Where's the patent law lady here? Any new changes in political or government stuff that are affecting these folks?
That would be huge.
Well, give me one.
The American Invents Act.
American Invents Act. Did not know about it. Okay, it affects everybody, right?
Yeah.
And most people have to pay attention to it. So we got technology, we got government.
SOPA was going to affect a lot of people.
Is what?
SOPA.
SOPA is what?
You don't know what SOPA is?
No, I don't.
You didn't. It was this huge debate going on in Congress on like having the same laws on the internet as they do in the
Oh
real
yeah,
world.
yeah.
Anti-piracy stuff.
Yep.
That would
Okay.
have made it nearly impossible to start a new business through that way. You'd have to, like, go through so many different channels, prove that you have the patents on this, and it would have just delayed the whole process.
Okay, so we got technology we got to pay attention to. We got government we got to pay attention to. We got to pay attention to natural forces, wind, earth, air, okay, water. Anybody have anything natural, anything they're dealing with, chemical or anything? Disaster. Okay, you know in Florida they passed a law after the hurricanes, all the hospitals now have to have backup generators. All the gas stations have to have backup generators in case there's a big evacuation. Natural, and the last thing we got to pay attention to is culturally. We talked about cultural, right? As you know, we're an influx of foreigners, or immigration coming in the United States. Everybody agree?
Yeah.
Okay, and one of my clients is in the gas station business. Did you know that in 5 years, over 50% of all gas stations in the United States are going to be owned by people from Pakistan or India? Anybody seen a Pakistan or India guy at a convenience store?
Yeah.
In New Jersey, it's going to be 90%.
New York.
New York, 90%.
Well, they have about 74 stations around the Bay Area already.
I'll have more than that, sir. Yeah. So they're aggressively pursuing, and they're going to have domination of the gas station market. And they're tough, man. They beat up on people. They have buying co-ops, and that's something. If we're in that market, this girl right here might go into the convenience store market, maybe, right? You're going to have to learn to deal with that cultural effect. They buy differently, so you got to pay attention to culture. Remember that word, culture. Make sense? Cool. So what's happening out there? The other thing we got to pay attention to. I know you guys don't like doing this, but we got to know what our competitors are doing. We got to know what our competitors are doing. I'm going to repeat that one more time. We got to know what our competitors are doing. What's your invention, sir?
Well, the one that I showed at the fair is a tool gurney.
Tool gurney.
Yeah.
Can we go to Home Depot? Is there something? I'm sure it's not as good, but do they have something like that? No. Wayne, do you have a competitor?
Sure.
We have two types of competitors. Direct does exactly what you do, and indirect does the same thing, but it's not the same product. Okay? Who's a direct competitor of yours?
Direct would be hard to find. Twiddler might be,
Twiller? Okay. Indirect would be a standard keyboard, right?
well, and there's some other software as well.
Okay. Mr. Pallet here makes plastic pallets, right?
Correct.
Who's your direct competitor?
Chef.
Chef, wood pallets.
A wooden pallet.
I like that one, wood pallets. So he's got to know what's going on in wood. Unfortunately for him, the price of wood is not rising as fast as plastic, right? But he's got to pay attention to that. What's your invention, man? Hey, what is it?
It's a new style of trailer hitch.
Trailer hitch, awesome. Obviously yours replaces somebody else's, right?
Well, it makes life easier.
Life easier, okay? So you got to pay attention to your competitor. If you're going to sell it, you're going to be in the marketplace, you're going to make money, you got to understand your competitors. What Apple did, okay, they recognized IBM was a competitor back in the 70s, right? Kicked their ass. Excuse me, everybody, but they did. Okay, because they're fat, dumb, and lazy. Okay? And they didn't understand culture, they didn't understand innovation, they didn't understand trends. Okay? Steve Jobs, working out of his garage, took on one of the biggest companies in the world. How about that? Still doing it, okay? So they understood their competitors' weaknesses. You guys need to look at your competitors, find out their weaknesses, and pounce.
Didn't Jobs go to IBM first?
I don't know the whole story, but there's some Gates things in there as well and software. But at the end of the day, he was
And
able
IBM
to.
said, we don't want it.
Yeah. Okay. So competitive analysis is part of a marketing principle. Okay, and so what are you going to do if you got this invention, right? And you know it's good, and two big competitors are going to gang up on you, crush you, outmarket you. I mean, take example of, you heard of Frito-Lay potato chips? You heard of Frito-Lay, right? Someone tries to get a potato chip in a grocery store, what do you think Frito-Lay does? They try to wipe them out. They buy all the shelf space, right? They crush them with marketing dollars. Frito-Lay is a 900-pound gorilla, okay? Microsoft got some money, right? Google has some money. Do they want to take care of Steve Jobs? You get they do. So what do you do? Let's see. Anybody have an answer? What would you do?
Cut price.
Cut price? Well, option. What else?
Better product.
Better product. I like that one.
Go after their alliances with their competitors,
Alliance with the competitors.
or make an alliance with them.
Okay. Anybody else have an idea? What would you do?
Cheaper.
Price? I don't know. I
Make
like
it
that
work
one.
better.
Niche.
Niche.
Yeah.
What's another one?
Another thing is, depending on how big the market is and who other players are, it might go for a acquisition or something with.
Merger.
other
Okay, cool.
competitors.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about this at the end of the conversation, how a marketing plan fits into that. And what Steve Jobs does, he understood that people were going to come after him. He spent a lot of money on R&D. He spent a lot of money on research. He understood culture, and he always outmaneuvered people and came up with the next greatest thing. So, another core principle you have to do. All right. Another core principle is research. How do you know what your customers want? You have this trailer hitch, right? What's your first name?
Roger.
Roger. How do you know people would really like your product?
I show it.
You show it.
Everybody likes it.
Everybody likes it. Wayne, how do you know people like your product?
Get it out in front of them.
Get it out in front of them. Anybody else? Market research. Find out people's wants, needs, and desires. How do we find out?
That's good.
Ask them. Okay? I like to do what's called ethnographic research, is really get in front of the people that are using trailer hitches, right? Get in front of the people who are blind, right? Get in front of people who are deaf, right?
Mhm.
Where's the bra lady? Get in front of people who have a strapless bra and stick their cell phone in there, right?
When you're
And you
patented,
walk around the fair, you can see a few of those, right?
when you're patented protected, you can easily do that in confidence. But when you're not protected yet, you have to find a clever way of doing that same research without revealing what it is that you're ultimately trying to do.
That's my next topic. So anybody else do any market research here before? Anybody ever been to a focus group?
Sure.
Focus group?
Oh, yeah.
Works?
Sure.
Okay. And what's another market research form?
Exhibiting at the fair was.
Is it getting fair? I think that's awesome. I really do. Great research, right? Anybody put out a survey before?
Survey Monkey.
Does it work?
Yeah.
Works.
Worked great.
So marketing research, yes sir, what's another?
Trade show.
Trade show, walk the trade show, find subject matter
Set a
experts.
booth at a trade show, and you'll find out whether or not it's gonna work.
Okay, and I think, Mike, go ahead.
Survey Monkey is relatively free, until you get into some really
Yeah.
complex.
And I'm gonna share two experiences with you right now where I worked for people like you who had great products and their sales were going down, 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 down. Okay? Because they didn't understand what customers want. One was a large truck stop in East Tampa, and they tried to get truckers from all the United States who were delivering to Publix or delivering to Tropicana to stop at their truck stop. And I worked for a guy, and he would go like this. Quality, quality, quality. Everybody wants quality. And two of his sons were in the room and said, quality. If we just do quality work, they'll always come back. You heard that before? Quality and they'll always return? And I said, well, sir, let me find out for you. And so I did ethnographic research. I pretended I was a truck driver. I went to every truck stop from here to Georgia, and I sat at the lunch counter and I asked people, hey, why do you stop at this truck stop? What's a good truck stop? You know, why don't you stop at Tampa Bay Truck Wash? Okay? And I asked 4 or 5 questions. Is it service? Is it price? Is it quality? You know what? How many people said quality? 0. Nobody was interested in quality. Price? 0. Experience. This girl gets an A. I like that.
Teacher's pet.
Everybody wanted relationships. They are driving from Iowa. They haven't talked to anybody in 3 days. They're driving from Minnesota with grain and rice. They haven't seen anybody, they haven't talked to anybody but the radio. They want to stop their truck and they want to talk to somebody. They face to face. Relationship marketing. It was all about relationship marketing. This guy was off the charts in his quality. So he hired me, I worked at, we talked about customer service programs, relationship, girls on the radio, all that kind of stuff. Boom, sales went right back up. Marketing research. Another one, I worked for a guy, he was an attorney, and his sales were going like this, ching, 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 down. And he thought he was the best attorney in town, okay? And the person that was getting all his work, he thought was the worst attorney in town. He thought she was a joke. Okay, but he relied on relationship marketing. He says, I gotta take them to lunch, I gotta take these people to lunch. This other lady was just kicking his tail. He wasn't getting out and finding out what she was doing. So he hired me. And I had to tell him the bad news. I said, my name is David. I said, David, this girl is out on the speaking circuit once a month in front of women who are about to get a divorce and kicking ass and taking names, excuse me, and getting all the high-profile Bucks players and people in car dealerships, and he could not figure it out for the life of him until he did. He hired someone to do ethnographic research and go out and visit these women. And I gave him the advice. He didn't like it, but he had to do it. So, marketing research. If you don't have the money for marketing research, you don't have the time for it. I know you guys, a lot of you guys spend time in your lab. Get someone to do it for you. It's very valuable. So that is a core marketing principle. We're doing it on time, all right? Yeah. Cool. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about market segmentation. What is market segmentation?
Demographics.
We're talking about demographics. It is a group of prospects. A group. So I talked to you, you've nailed it down to women, right? But perhaps you need to nail it down to 7 or 8 different groups of women. Age, sex, race, right? Profession, right? So what about these groups? Where's the trailer guy? How can we break yours down into groups? Is it all boats or is it farm equipment as well?
Trailers, period.
Trailers.
Yeah, if you pull, you could use it.
You pull, okay, but we're gonna have to work on you on some segmentation. Okay, anybody, do you have an intervention, sir?
No.
Okay, how about you? Do you have a product?
Just myself.
Just yourself, okay. Anybody else have a product with segments?
Because I've got concealed carry, I've got target shooting, I've got military and police.
Cool. So hold that thought. So we're gonna talk about these distinct groups, and what about these distinct groups? They all have different needs, right? So you gotta understand each one's needs. So they all have unique characteristics. I assume yours do, right? I assume yours do. Does any of them require special features? Can you get an advantage that way? Okay, Wayne, obviously you're into the special features business, right?
Sure.
Okay, or do they require special campaigns? Do you have to do something to get in front of these people that buckshot won't work, Facebook won't work, social networking won't work? Do they require it? And you never know. They all might get, these Indian American or Pakistani, Indian Pakistani, they are tough, but they do not take salesmen off the street. You have really got to work your way in there, and very tough, and they're a very tight-knit group, and they definitely require special campaign. So if you're going to go to these Indian Americans, Pakistani, you got to work it out for you, right? But it could be a gold mine if you figure it out. So, guys said demographics. What are some demographics we need to pay attention to make groups of people, groups of prospects? Age?
Sure.
You think it's a good one?
Yep.
What about income level? Should be one. Maybe just target rich people. Someday I'll teach you about the bacon hot cheddar cheese fried potato chip and how a guy went after the poorest people in the United States and made a fortune. Okay? Amazing. What about geography? North, south, winter?
Sure.
Important?
Potentially.
Potentially? Does your product work better in salt water or work better in the cold weather? Any geography? No? How about you? Cold weather, warm weather?
Works good around the water.
What, okay. And gender, male, female.
What about timing?
But what?
Timing. Timing is more important than time itself.
Okay.
Demographic.
Okay.
Day, night.
Day, night. Okay, what are some other demographics? Religion?
Time of the year.
Holiday season? Right? So we can infinitely break it up. Okay? And the smart marketing principles is to break up your prospects into distinctive groups by the demographics I showed you. And I'll give you an example how this works. I was a teacher at MacDill Air Force Base, still am. And guess what? When I was teaching there, they had a lockdown. Nobody can go out. Nobody can leave their desk, right? And nobody that I was teaching can go off base.
Was it 9/11?
It was after 9/11, but they had some kind of lockdown. So I'm teaching people who cannot come to my class, right? So I'm teaching, and they could not go out to eat. So we came up with this idea, right, to bring a food truck in. I'm a food truck fanatic, okay?
Taco Bus.
Taco Bus. You guys know about food trucks? I think it's a huge trend. I think it's here to stay, and it's not going away. Okay? But so we had to break down MacDill Air Force Base for these folks. Guess what? There's 20,000 people on MacDill Air Force Base every day. I didn't know that, right? So we wanted to break them down. Well, what kind of people are there? We have military people. Anybody been out there? We have military people. Distinct needs. Okay? Work all kinds of weird hours and all kinds of weird shifts. Okay? And believe me, they don't eat lunch every day at 12 o'clock. Okay? We have civilians out there. Agree? Contractors? Definitely. Maintenance folks? Do a lot of families live out there? Absolutely. Stationary people cannot leave their desk. Mobile people who can leave their desk. A lot of retirees. A lot of officers, a lot of enlisted. And so we had to break down MacDill Air Force back then, and we broke it down even further. And we figured out how the food truck can make money by using demographics. And we found out that these people were the key to the whole thing. They could not leave to go off base. And we catered to those people. We made a killing. Absolute killing, and kicked ass, on every other restaurant on that base. It's a big
Probably
place.
the only non-civil service that did make money, because anybody else loses money when they go out there. You gotta bid jobs, you go out there when you bid a job, and then you end up burning hours going through security.
Yeah. So that's an example of using segmentation to make money. Okay, next question. So now that we know our prospects, right? We know what group they're on, we know what needs they are, we put them into our target market. A target market is a group of prospects we're going to devote time, energy, and money towards. And then you shoot the grapple hook. You hook them, and you get them into your corner. Okay? So target market means once you identify it, you're going to spend some time and money to go after it. Let's see here. Roger, give me one target market. I know you gave me a buckshot approach, but I'm going to pin you down here. Give me a target market.
Boating industry.
Boating.
Yeah.
What kind of boat?
Any kind of boat.
What size?
Doesn't matter.
Fresh or salt?
Doesn't matter. It's a boat. It works.
All right. I think you need a little, all right. Anybody else? Who can I pick on? Where's
I
that?
told Roger, Lazy Day RV would be a potential for him, you know, the big bus RVs, the $1 million RVs, you know. Because they have a hard time when they pull their,
So that would be a group.
Right.
We'd have to do a little research and find out some of their specific needs.
RV. Yeah.
We could probably figure out how many there are in the United States and what their age level is, what their income, what their issues are, right? And we can develop a whole specific campaign for them. Yes, Dave?
You sell to the consumer or you sell to the manufacturer of the boat?
OEM or consumer market? Where's our first lady? Yeah?
I had realtors come in, so I'm gonna target realtors. They
Oh,
need
yeah,
this,
that's good.
they need it for their lockbox thing. They are having to walk in with their cell phone and some thing now that they have to have the lockbox.
what about that other group?
Oh, yeah, and a group of deaf people came in and they really wanted it.
Okay. So that would be in your target market, right? It would be a group, we define their needs, all that kind of stuff. And you launch, right? Marketing campaign, hook them, bring them to you. Got it? Cool. All right. Next, I want to talk to you back to Steve Jobs. Absolutely brilliant development of target markets and developing target markets. This is a class exercise. I'm going to tell you about Steve Jobs and just how brilliant he was. Unbelievably smart. He ticked out many, many groups, but he ticked 4 that just blew me away. Graphic artists, librarians, okay, librarians. Who's this one? Who's this one? Students. I want you to take 2 minutes, turn to a partner, and I want you to tell me why Steve Jobs picked out these prospective groups to develop with the computer. So take a minute, turn to your partner, and pick out a couple. And why did Steve Jobs go after graphic artists? Why do you go after musicians? Why do you go after students? And why do you go after librarians? Take a minute, talk amongst yourselves. You have a good idea. Why did Steve Jobs pick up graphic artists? Yes, sir.
The graphic artist wouldn't have to wait for the paint to dry. If we're doing old-fashioned paste-up work, they wouldn't have to wait for the paste to dry. Just drag and drop and they're done.
Okay, why did you go after graphic artists?
So we can monopolize that market.
That's a damn good reason. Why did you?
Because visual is a big part of marketing.
What about connection? What about connection, better that word? Yes, sir. Why do you go after?
We also went after graphic arts because IBM had not put Windows together yet.
You're so good.
And they had no connection.
What else? Why do you go after graphic artists?
'Cause
Graphic artists create stuff, huh? They
Yes,
think. Did we
because
talk about creativity in this class a little bit earlier?
his product, you know, was capable of doing things that would appeal to that market.
Do you think they showed it to other people when they said,
Yeah.
think so?
Yes.
Darn right they did.
Goes to the
What? Okay, second one. Why would he go after musicians? There's all kinds of other people. Why would he go after musicians?
Influential.
What was that? Influential? What else? Raise your hand, raise your hand. Go ahead, sir.
They have music writing programs way back.
Way back. Does music transfer to other people?
Affects people.
Does it affect people? Do people connect with their songs? Does music travel around the world?
Yep.
Do we listen to reggae, British Invasion, right?
Yep.
MTV, right? Yeah.
Also, electronic music was kind of new back then.
New.
New trend, and he jumped onto that
New
trend.
10, did we talk about technology in this class a little bit? Yep. I got Steve Jobs. Does he dominate the music industry? Yes. Okay, why would he go after librarians?
Influence.
You got it. A, right there. Influence. Creativity, learning, mindset. What do we talk about? Product development? The family of products, right? If a librarian started with Apple 20 years ago, do you think she switched?
That's exactly.
Shared
right.
appreciation for knowledge.
Right.
While they're young, and then they continue to use it, and they spread the word.
And they totally spread the word, as we say in California. Okay, librarians agree with that one? Good market? Dominant? What about students? Why would you go after poor students? Why would they do that?
For the future.
The future. Do they do this? Do they talk? Are they sharing? Are they connecting?
More than anybody.
Are they interested in new technology? Steve Jobs, the master. The ultimate master at developing target markets and product development in the one, same thing, $75 billion in sales. Steve Jobs used marketing principles. Okay, next word I want to talk to you about is product positioning. How do you stack up to your competitor? We all got competitors, right? We all have to position ourselves in the minds of your prospects, right? What is your product compared to somebody else? If I said to you, Domino's versus Pizza Hut, was there any difference there? Okay. If I said Starbucks, I don't want to use Starbucks. Winn-Dixie and Publix. Is there a difference?
Yes.
Does Publix position himself in the minds of customers? What does Publix do? They make it, what?
Wonderful experience.
Wonderful experience, clean,
We're shopping as pleasure.
such a pleasure. They position themselves, right? Winn-Dixie, low, lower, right? Lower. Right? So if someone has some money, do you think they're going to go to Publix? Or they're going to go to Winn-Dixie? Publix. So product positioning. Where do you position yourself in the mind of the prospect? Okay? I'm going to tell you how this worked for the next company here. So did Apple do a good job against IBM? Excellent. I'm going to show you another great example of this. Product positioning. It's all marketing technique. How they made tons of money. Okay. One of my favorite marketing positioning stories of all time is this company called Starbucks. 5 or 6 years ago, was it $4 for a cup of coffee? $3.50? How much was coffee 25 years ago before Starbucks came along? A quarter.
Nickel.
My mother complained if she paid a nickel and didn't get a refill. Okay. Okay. You ever have parents like that, right? They always got coffee for a nickel, always got a refill. Starbucks came in and says, "Hey, we got this $4 coffee." They had this sell image and a lot of branding, right? Did they connect with people? They sure did.
Wi-Fi.
But Wi-Fi, $4 cup of coffee. So a marketing guy was sitting around saying, from Dunkin' Donuts, and they're saying, man, we ain't selling any coffee. Look at how many people are buying breakfast at Starbucks at $4 a pop, $3 a croissant. Who's everybody shopped at Starbucks? Expensive, isn't it, right? So this guy, this marketing guy said, he read the book, and he said, chapter on product positioning. What can I do to get business from Starbucks? He created what kind of menu? The value menu, yes. And he had fan loyalty. And he said, we're going to be $1, and we're going to be just as good. And we're going to go after blue-collar people, people who want value. Okay? Kick ass, take names. He took a ton of business from Starbucks. He's got fan loyalty, brand loyalty, army of fans, and they just refuse to go to Starbucks. All from product positioning. So maybe in your world out there, if you stumble across a competitor that's giving you a hard time, you may have to turn to this chapter, okay, on product positioning and make all the difference in the world. There's really no change in the coffee, okay? It's just how they branded and how they positioned themselves. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. 4 P's of marketing. We talked about product, right? The other 4 P's are placement, promotion, and pricing. I don't have time for pricing, so I'm going to briefly go over these 2 really quick and wrap this up. Placement. Where do customers see, smell, touch your product? Where do they see it? Wayne goes to the fair. Worked, right?
Sure.
Good product placement. Where else do we go to get our product in front of the customer? We all know about the internet. We all know about Facebook.
CES.
CVS.
CES.
CES. What's that mean?
Consumer Electronics
Show. Okay. Where's Mr. Trailer Guy? Roger. Where are you gonna get people to see your product, touch it, smell it, taste it? Maybe hang out at the boat ramp, right?
Marina.
Marina.
RV Trade Show.
RV trade show. Trade shows are all right. I think they're a lot of busy, not too much. But what Steve Jobs did, absolutely brilliant. He created a special place just for people. Anybody been to the Apple store at West Shore Mall? Impressive, huh? See that word up there? Vibe. Great word. Remember that word. Marketing principle. So if you get placement, you gotta have vibe. You gotta connect with people. Okay? Marketing principle. Make sense? I think the fair was a good one, right? You've had some duds though, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, but Jobs was the master. He came up with the idea. It was all his baby. And I'll tell you another thing that he did. Good vibe? Connect with people? Interesting? Trendy? Right?
What is it?
That's the Apple Genius Bar. That's where the Apple people sell their stuff, and a lot of money is made at the Apple Genius Bar. Finally, I don't know if you can see that, he went after the kids as a playground, right? Mommy, daddy need one game or Game Boy, right? Absolutely brilliant, excellent marketing technique. Finally, the last thing I'd like to talk to you about a little bit is now that you have your invention, right? You got your product, right? You got your placement, right? You got it. But now we got to sell it, right? Kind of the hard part, right? So we're going to talk to you a little bit about promotion techniques that Steve Jobs used to make money. We talked about it a little bit earlier, right? With the sign waving and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things we have to do is when we present to people, I know it's kind of tough at the fair, but Jobs was the master of a sense of purpose, making lives better, improving technology, right? Connecting people. So if you get up and do a presentation, think about this, a sense of purpose. What, really get some oomph behind your product as a sense of purpose to make someone's life better, to connect with people, to help people, sustainability. So Jobs, excellent. When people left his presentations, they were motivated to go out and buy. So remember that. Another thing that he did, so I also missed one. You got to create a story. So I'm sure you guys have a story behind how you came up with it, Wayne. So work on your story, sense of purpose. Finally, when you're gonna get your big shot in front of an investor or big prospect, Jobs was the master at preparation. Sometimes 3-4 months to prepare for a 20-30-minute PowerPoint presentation, right? So he visualized, he planned, and he created. And he was the best, the absolute best. So let's remember that. And so when you finally give your promotion, you give your pitch, I want you to remember 3 things. It's not what they saw, okay? It's what did the people learn? Remember that. What did they learn? What did they take away? So remember that. How'd they feel? Personal connection. Remember that. Personal connection. They gotta feel connected. And finally, something at the end that they're motivated to buy. Put those 3 things together. Last 2 slides. So, last thing. Okay. Everybody would like to get word of mouth marketing, right? So I'm going to tell you, based on what we learned in the last hour, the road to people talking about your product. Everybody wants somebody who sells for them, right?
Sure.
Agree?
Sure.
Sure. So how do we, this is the road to word of mouth marketing. First, the P word is the prospects. We've got to identify the key prospects. We talked about that tonight, right? Prospects. Group of people who haven't bought, right? For their potential, right?
Your target market.
Those are prospects. Yeah, they haven't bought yet. Once they, what do they do if they buy? They become a what? A buyer. A buyer who buys one time. We don't want buyers that buy one time, do we? We want them to buy multiple times, right? So we got to get them to buy something, right? We got to get them to buy something. Third one, C word is what? Customer. Customer is a repeat business. Hairdresser, bartender. DJ, you've had people come back to you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're customers. Very important, right?
Following is what's important for DJs.
Customer. How do you get customer? You know their name, they buy on a regular basis, right? Finally, you got a customer, he's happy, right? Now he starts telling people about people, right? They're called what? With the A word.
Advocate.
Advocate. So you got to make this road. Steve Jobs, the master. The last factor, if you could get the prospect, you get them to buy, become a customer, they start telling people about you, right? At the end, you got the what?
Word of mouth.
The word of mouth or the wow factor. Okay? So you got to get people to say, wow, that was a whale of a product. That was a whale of a show. Right? That was a whale of a clip. That was a whale of a trailer. And it's a process that we all have to go through. So I think this is the last slide. So tying it all together for the last hour, what I like to do to people is to put it all on paper. Try and get a marketing plan together. Because what you're going to find, when you put it all on paper, and you follow the steps in the book, okay, the marketing plan, something's going to pop out at you. And nothing's going to pop out unless you get it all down on paper. Your competitors, your presentation, your target markets, your prospects. It's a long journey, okay? But well worth it because at the end, the marketing plan will make sense to you and your investor. And I'll close with this. Use the marketing principles in the book, what we covered tonight, because they worked. Steve Jobs did them. You guys can do them. So that's all I got tonight, and thank you very much.